alle deutschen Modalverben in einem Video? That's true. But we're not going to only do like the verb conjugation in present tense. You will also learn about sentence structure for main clause, subordinate clause. You will learn about the Präteritum, the past form, how to use them when talking about the past. Lots of example sentences. And of course, a bonus tip about möchten. What do you think? Is möchten ein Modalverb oder nicht? We will find out later on in the bonus tip. So this is going to be a very detailed video in terms of grammar about Modalverben. That's why it's also an A2 level labeled video, because there's a lot of things which you should know at A1, of course, but things you only learn at the A2 level. Es gibt 6 Modalverben total. There are in total 6 modal verbs. Können, mögen, dürfen, wollen, sollen und müssen. Now, they also have some special features. Zum Beispiel, es sind alles unregelmäßige Verben. All of them are irregular verbs. They don't stand alone, meaning they always come in combination with a main verb or a full verb. Always is wrong. You see this star here, this red star here at the end, because there are some exceptions. More about this later on. They change the meaning of the main verb. Zum Beispiel, you can say, ich lerne Deutsch. I study, I learn German. You can say, ich will Deutsch lernen. I want to study German. Or you can say, ich muss Deutsch lernen. I have to study German. So they change the meaning of the main verb. And I hope it's not müssen for you. I hope definitely it's wollen. And they are fundamental for real-world conversations. They are all in the top 100 of the most commonly used German verbs, and some of them even in the top 50 or even higher. In terms of ranking, you might wondering which one is the most frequently used one. It's definitely number 1, können. Können is actually in the top 5 of most frequently used German verbs in real-life conversations. Können Nummer 1, müssen Nummer 2, wollen. Nummer 3, 4 ist dürfen. 5 mögen und 6 wollen. Now this mögen is actually often in terms of rankings is often at the last place, because mögen is mainly used not like a modal verb, so use it often as a main verb, as a full verb. But again, more about this at the end. But for me personally, I use mögen definitely more often in real life than sollen. For me personally, sollen is the least frequently used ones. Now, in terms of translation, können is this can or to be able to. Müssen is this to have to. Please don't translate it with must. Because in English, the negative form mustn't is in German actually nicht dürfen and nicht müssen. So especially for English speakers, try to translate it with have to, then you won't mix it up when you use it negative. Wollen, want to, dürfen, to be allowed to or may sometimes, mögen, to like, und sollen, to be supposed to. Here as well, I often see the translation should, which is actually possible in a lot of situations. But this should is mainly used as a translation for the conjunctive form of sollen, which is sollte. For sollen, in this form here, indicative, the better translation is this supposed to be. Because as well, you will find out more later on when we come to sollen. Conjugation in presence. Let's start with the conjugation in present tense. On top, you have the infinitive form, and we go through all of them a little quick in presence. Können, ich kann, du kannst, er, sie, es kann, wir können, ihr könnt, sie können. Mögen, ich mag, du magst, er, sie, es mag, wir mögen, ihr mögt, sie mögen. Wollen, ich will, du willst, er, sie, es will, wir wollen, ihr wollt, sie wollen. Sollen, ich soll, du sollst, er, sie, es soll, wir sollen, ihr sollt, sie sollen. Dürfen, ich darf, du darfst, er, sie, es darf, wir dürfen, ihr dürft, sie dürfen. Und Müssen, ich muss, du musst, er, sie, es muss. Wir müssen, ihr müsst, sie müssen. And here's some additional tips. The plural form, so wir, ihr, sie, first person to third person plural form, is actually regular. Irregular is only, but for all of them, except for sollst, the second person singular, sollst, all of the singular forms are irregular. Also, the first and the third person singular form is always the same. And of course, this also applies to the plural form, first and third person, because this is also the same for regular verbs. And one more thing is this umlaut change or vowel change. When you look at the infinitives form, you have this können, mögen, dürfen, müssen. There's all these umlaut. And in the conjugated form, you actually don't have this umlaut anymore. And you mostly also have a vowel change. So können becomes kann, mögen becomes mag, wollen becomes will, sollen stays the same, dürfen darf und müssen muss. Let's start with können, can or to be able to. 3 different situations when you can use it. Number 1, most commonly one, is used for expressing ability or possibility. Situation 2, to make polite requests. Und Situation 3, to give or ask for permission. Zum Beispiel, ich kann nicht gut Fußball spielen. Ich kann nicht gut Fußball spielen. True fact, I'm really terrible at soccer or football. I'm not good at playing soccer or football. Or literally, I cannot play soccer very well. Kannst du mir bitte helfen? That's a request. Kannst du mir bitte helfen? Can you help me, please? Und wann können wir eine Pause machen? Wann können wir eine Pause machen? Hey Lehrer, wann können wir eine Pause machen? When can we take a break? That's a way to ask for permission. Satzbau, sentence structure. We have on top the positions, so Position 1, Position 2, then this X here is everything in between, in the middle kind of, and the last position. And 3 sentences we actually just did. Zum Beispiel Nummer 1. Ich kann nicht gut Fußball spielen. That's the main clause. Position 1, Subjekt, the subject. Then 2 in the main clause is always the conjugated verb. Normally, in a normal statement, with a sentence with a modal verb, the conjugated verb is always the modal verb. Stands on second position. Ich kann, dann everything in between, nicht gut Fußball, and then the last position is the main verb, spielen. For yes or no questions, kannst du mir bitte helfen? Kannst du mir bitte helfen? Can you help me please? For yes or no questions, you start always on position 1 with the conjugated verb, which is again here the modal verb. And on the last position as well, the main verb helfen. And for questions with a question word, wann können wir eine Pause machen? Wann können wir eine Pause machen? When can we take a break? With question words, we start the sentence with the question word wann, then position 2, conjugated verb, and at the end, the main verb. You see here always the positions. In red is the conjugated verb, which is, again, is the modal verb. And the second verb in a modal sentence, a modal verb sentence, is on the last position and always in its infinitive form. You don't touch this verb, you just use it in its infinitive, the original form. So, most important rule for Hauptsatz, for main clauses, das Vollverb steht immer am Ende. The main verb, the full verb, is always on the last position. Now, let's go to subordinate clauses, Nebensatz. And here you see the positions change a little bit because I always start on kind of position 1 is this Hauptsatz, the main clause, then everything in between, and then the main verb and the last position. Zum Beispiel, ich glaube, dass Toni gut Fußball spielen kann. Ich glaube, dass Toni gut Fußball spielen kann. I believe that Toni plays football well or can play football well. Nummer 2. Ich hoffe, dass du mir helfen kannst. Ich hoffe is the main clause, Hauptsatz. Das, conjunction, which needs a subordinate clause, dass du mir helfen kannst. Helfen, main verb, kannst, Modalverb. Und weißt du, wann wir eine Pause machen können? Do you know, that's a question, do you know, wann wir eine Pause machen können, when we can take a break or when we can make literally a break. So here we have the main verb always on the second last position because in a subordinate clause, Nebensatz, the conjugated verb is always on the last position. And since we have sentences with a modal verb, the modal verb is the conjugated verb, therefore on the last position. So the rule is, das Modalverb steht immer am Ende. The modal verb in a, again, Nebensatz in a subordinate clause always stands at the end. Let's go to the next one, müssen, which is, again, to have to. Remember this? Also, 3 different situations you can use them. Used for expressing necessity or obligation, or to make strong assumptions, or discussing responsibilities. Zum Beispiel, morgen muss ich arbeiten. Morgen muss ich arbeiten. Tomorrow I have to work tomorrow. That's an obligation. Diese Lösung muss falsch sein. Diese Lösung muss falsch sein. This solution has to be wrong. This is a strong assumption. You could actually also say it kind of negative with a different modal verb, which is also common. Diese Lösung kann nicht richtig sein. Diese Lösung kann nicht richtig sein. This solution cannot be true or be correct. Or again with müssen, diese Lösung muss falsch sein, a strong assumption. Und musst du jetzt nicht zum Arzt gehen? Musst du jetzt nicht zum Arzt gehen? Don't you have to go to the doctor now? You see this gehen here, this gehen is in brackets. Why? Because actually you can drop it. So you can say the sentence just with musst du jetzt nicht zum Arzt? And most probably in real life conversations, we would drop it. We would not mention this gehen. Why? Because it is that obvious. If you say, musst du jetzt nicht zum Arzt, you cannot say einkaufen. You cannot almost not use any other verbs, right? So it's just this gehen which actually works. Or fahren would be also possible. But it's just going to the doctor to see the doctor. And because it's that obvious, then in those situations, you can drop it. But if you want to be sure on the safe side, always leave it there. It's never wrong. Next one is wollen. Want to, also used in 3 different situations. The first one is it's used to express a strong desire or intention. Nummer 2, important when talking about plans. Und Nummer 3, expressing wishes and goals. Beispiele. Ich will nach Hause gehen. Ich bin müde. Ich will nach Hause gehen. I want to go home. I'm tired. I have seen everything here. I want to go home. So this is quite strong. Wollen is quite strong. So that's why it's used to say what you want to do. Was willst du heute Abend machen? Was willst du heute Abend machen? What do you want to do tonight? Perfect way to ask somebody you know that, or for the plans, you're asking for his or her plans. Im Juli will Lea die B1-Prüfung schaffen. Im Juli will Lea die B1-Prüfung schaffen. Lea wants to pass the B1 exam in July. That's a goal. So here this wollen is perfectly situated in the sentence because we talk about a goal. Don't use wollen if you want something, for example, in a restaurant or in a coffee shop or something. When you're ordering something, don't use it in this situation. There are much better words for this. Talk about this later as well. Just try to avoid wollen in those situations. It's also, you hear it sometimes from children. Children say, oh, ich will nach Hause gehen. Also like this sentence, but this is also for adults. But in general, children use it more than adults. For adults, this wollen is not that commonly used, except when you talk about like plans or goals. Vergangenheit. Let's talk about the past tense. Because for German modal verbs, they're mostly often used in Präteritum, simple past. Not in perfect. There are sometimes in perfect, they are used, but only in very specific situations. And those are not common at all. So always use them in Präteritum, you're good to go. Two other verbs which are always also used in Präteritum, mainly used in Präteritum when talking about the past, are sein und haben, to be and to have. Let's take the conjugation of the present tense here, this table again. Let's put this here on top. I know it's a little bit small, but maybe you can refer to if you want to. Also the infinitive forms, and now we conjugate the modal verbs, all 6 modal verbs in Präteritum in the simple past form. Können is ich konnte, du konntest, er, sie, es konnte, wir konnten, ihr konntet, sie konnten. Mögen, ich mochte, that's quite strange, ich mochte, du mochtest, er, sie, es mochte, wir mochten, ihr mochtet, sie mochten. Not that common though, used in past tense, so don't worry about this too much. Wollen, ich wollte, du wolltest, er, sie, es wollte, wir wollten, ihr wolltet, sie wollten. Sollen, ich sollte, du solltest, er, sie, es sollte, wir sollten, ihr solltet, sie sollten. Also not commonly used, this one in past tense. Und dürfen, ich durfte, du durftest, er, sie, es durfte, wir durften, ihr durftet, sie durften. And the last one, müssen, ich musste, du musstest, er, sie, es musste, wir mussten, ihr musstet, sie mussten. Here also some side tips. When we just look at the endings of those conjugation in Präteritum, you see that, first of all, they're always the same. That's the good news. And secondly, they are exactly the same as the endings for regular verbs. There's always this te, tes, te, and so on. And also in terms of umlaut change, this is not only common for modal verbs, but also in general for German regular verbs as well. Können, you see this können, mögen, there is this umlaut. And in simple past form, the umlaut is gone. So it's just konnte, mochte, dürfen becomes durfte, und müssen becomes musste. Wollen und sollen, they are pretty much the same, like the infinitive form. Let's go to the next one. Dürfen, to be allowed to or may. Also 3 different situations when we use it. Used to express permission or prohibition. So you're allowed to do something, you're not allowed to do something. Important for discussing rules. Any kind of rules, dürfen is often used in this situation. And very formal and polite way to ask for something. Again, this is a very formal and a very polite way. You might see it sometimes in business emails or on phone calls, in business phone calls, but usually in real-time conversation with your friends, you probably never ask this question. Beispiele. Machen wir zuerst Beispiele. Durftest du als Kind bei Freunden übernachten? Durftest du als Kind bei Freunden übernachten? Were you allowed to sleep over at friends' houses as a child? Here we have durftest, which is Präteritum of dürfen. Warum darf mein Hund nicht mitkommen? Here we talk about rules. Warum darf mein Hund nicht mitkommen? Why is my dog not allowed to come along? Mitkommen is to come with you, to come along. And this very polite question, darf ich Ihnen unseren Katalog zusenden? Darf ich Ihnen unseren Katalog zusenden? May I send you our catalog? So this may is kind of nice translation for dürfen for exactly this situation when you want to be very polite. Again, this is a situation like in a sales call, for example, somebody asks you, darf ich Ihnen etwas, may I send you a price list, a brochure, catalog, something like this, and then they might use this dürfen in a very polite way. and mostly again only for formal questions. So darf ich Ihnen? They don't know each other. It's talking business. So it's formal and polite, but in normal, informal situations, you might not ask this question. Mögen. Mögen, to like. Also 3 different situations. Nummer 1, used for expressing affection or rejection. So you like something or you don't like something or someone. Mostly, and this is important, mostly used as a main verb or full verb. So not like the other German Modalverben. It is still a modal verb, this mögen, but it's mostly used as a full verb. So there is no second verb in the sentence. You will see this just in a second in the examples. And not very common, but possible to ask about someone's desire. Beispiele. Ich mag Pizza, ich mag diese Musik. I like pizza, I like this music. So here, I like something. Negative, of course, you can also use this also with people. Zum Beispiel, Toni mag seine Lehrerin nicht. Toni mag seine Lehrerin nicht. Toni doesn't like his teacher. And magst du heute Abend mitkommen? Magst du heute Abend mitkommen? Is this kind of question, very polite, also not commonly used. Again, this is with friends, you wouldn't ask this, but it's a nice way to ask, would you care? This is a kind of, I think, a great translation in English. Would you care to join us tonight? Now, in terms of mögen, you see there's always a noun. Ich mag Pizza, ich mag Musik und Toni mag seine Lehrerin. There's always a noun or a person, a thing or a person. And this is what is typical about mögen because it's mainly or almost only used with a noun. So you like something or you don't like something or somebody. Another reason why this mögen is not in the top 10 or top 50 of all German verbs, it's actually in the top 50, I think, but not very high up because there are alternatives. Like, for example, gern. And gern is an adverb used in combination with activities. Zum Beispiel, ich esse gern Pizza. I like eating pizza. Or spielst du gern Fußball? Do you like playing soccer? So here we have the activity itself, which is eating something. Here's pizza, even though we have this noun, but this gern is, because it's an adverb, it belongs to the verb. So this is just another way to say to like something, to like doing something, because that's an activity. So we don't say, ich mag Pizza essen. Magst du Fußball spielen? It's not completely wrong, but we wouldn't say it. So whenever we talk about an activity, like an action, something ongoing, then we use gern instead of mögen. And that's another reason why this mögen is not as frequently used as the other ones. The last one, sollen, to be supposed to. Auch 3 verschiedene Situationen. Nummer 1, to pass on advice coming from a third party. That's important. This is used in situations when somebody's told you something and you say it to the other person. That's why I personally think it's not that commonly used, because it's just not happening that often. Second situation, general expectations. General expectations. Und Nummer 3, also not that common, but it's possible and an interesting one, I think, when talking about rumors. For the first one, example, der Arzt sagte, dass ich im Bett bleiben soll. Der Arzt sagte, dass ich im Bett bleiben soll. The doctor said I'm supposed to stay in bed. Situation, you're lying at home in bed and your partner comes up to you and says, hey, was machst du schon wieder im Bett? Oder warum bist du immer noch im Bett? Why are you still in bed? And you can say this sentence, the doctor said. I'm sorry, but I'm okay. It's not my fault. The doctor said, dass ich im Bett bleiben soll. So here, this soll is perfectly used because, again, we take the message from a third party and bring it over to the other person. Second situation, wann sollen wir zu dir kommen? Wann sollen wir zu dir kommen? When shall we come to your place? Shall is another translation which is kind of okay, I think, with this sollen. And here we talk about general expectations. When, of course, you could say as well, should. When should we be at your place? When should we be at yours? But again, should usually comes with conjunctive. Is something you will learn later, or you can also go down in the description. You will find a video about conjunctive, and there we talk about this more in detail. And the third one, the rumor. Peter soll eine neue Freundin haben. Peter soll eine neue Freundin haben. Peter is said to have a new girlfriend, or there are rumors around that Peter has a new girlfriend. So again, this is not commonly used, but it's, I think, an interesting and nice way to talk about rumors. So you can use this sollen if you are not 100% sure, or again, actually you're not sure at all, but you heard somebody told you something that Peter has a new girlfriend, and then you can use this sollen to emphasize that you actually don't know and it is a rumor. Hausaufgaben. You have to schreib einen Satz mit einem Modalverb in die Kommentare. Write a sentence with a modal verb, one of those 6, whichever it is, in the comment section. If you are at A1, you can use it in present tense. If you are at A2 level or higher, try to make a sentence in Präteritum. Bonustipp. Möchten, das 7. Modalverb. Is möchten, this möchten, is this actually the 7th modal verb? First of all, no, it's not. Because möchten is actually a different form of the verb mögen. Here we have, or you can see, the present tense conjugation and the Präteritum conjugation. And Präsens und Präteritum, this form or these tenses are used in Indikativ. Indikativ is a form in German. There are 3 forms. The first one is Indikativ. That's kind of the first one you learn. That's the normal form. Second one is Imperativ. Imperativ, when you give someone an order. And the third one is Konjunktiv. And Konjunktiv is, again, it's a different form. Just tell you why or what it's used for. But first here the conjugation, you see conjunctive is actually built according to the Präteritum form. That's why you usually also learn first the present tense conjugation, then Präteritum Konjugation in A2, and then you learn about conjunctive in A2, B1 and higher levels. So the conjugation here is ich möchte, du möchtest, er, sie, es möchte, wir möchten, ihr möchtet, sie möchten. The endings exactly the same like in the Präteritum form or Präteritum conjugation. The only thing that changes here actually is this umlaut. And as mentioned, just a short side tip, what Indikativ and Konjunktiv is. Indikativ is the real world. So whenever we talk about things that happen right now, things you can see, things you can smell or touch, this is Indikativ, real things. And conjunctive is kind of when we talk about the unreal world, wishes, dreams, or fantasies. So everything which is not real is conjunctive. So again, the most common situations when we use this conjunctive is when we talk about wishes and dreams. This möchten is would like to in English and also used in 3 situations. The first and most important one is this to use to order food or drinks, expressing a desire or intention, and for polite requests. We use it a lot and you definitely have heard it a lot already. So this möchten is very frequently used. Zum Beispiel, ich möchte ein großes Bier bitte. Ich möchte ein großes Bier bitte. I would like a large beer, please. When you order it in a restaurant or in a Biergarten zum Beispiel. Ein großes Bier, by the way, is a large beer which is usually half liter. Möchtest du heute ins Kino gehen? Möchtest du heute ins Kino gehen? Would you like to go to the movies today? Of course, you could also use wollen. If you know this person well, then you can also say, willst du heute ins Kino gehen? Möchten is just a little bit nicer and you're kind of more on the safe side than when using wollen. Und möchten Sie das Kleid anprobieren? Möchten Sie das Kleid anprobieren? Very nice way to ask something. You're probably in a clothes shop and the shop owner or the salesperson asks this question. Would you like to try on the dress? So this möchten, again, is very important, but it's not a different verb. It is part of mögen, actually the conjunctive form of mögen. And talking about mögen, there are actually 3 different ways to use this English to like in German. All of them are very common. And this is a common problem, so we have a dedicated video about this problem. Mögen, gefallen oder gern in detail. I hope you learned something. I hope you liked it. I hope to see you again. Bis zum nächsten Mal. Tschüss und auf Wiedersehen.